Good morning, everyone. A very bright morning, lockdown 3.0 with easing of conditions. And as we speak today, we still live in the times of COVID-19, an unparalleled crisis that has metastasized through the world. But valuable lessons are to be learned from it. While the world was busy focusing on creating built environment that was supposedly resilient to natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and cyclones, there was little which was thought about such pandemics. The recent rise of this pandemic has basically held up a mirror to ensure that we look at what is supposed to be done beyond building robust structures and edifices. We need to be prepared to grapple with these challenges by ensuring that we have a care and a concern and a change. We are talking about new normal every day. So the ongoing crisis has basically given rise to new thought processes, innovation, and how the businesses are to be done. In such a scenario, the built environment sector is also going to see a huge change, demonstrable change, not just in demand, but in terms of supply also. Having said that, it will open up avenues for opportunities, and there could be rejuvenation, and there could be multiple multiplication of what India as a country can stand for the rest of the world. To make sense of what is happening over here, we have luminaries of the corporate real estate world who is going to discuss the impact of it and what can be done to try and make sure that we try and build opportunities from it. So I have with us Mr. Sangram Talwar, Managing Director, Office Services for Mid India for Colliers International, Mr. Sanjay Chatrath, Managing Director for North, Colliers International, Mr. Sumit Anand, MRICS, Global Infrastructure and Logistics Leader, Genpact, Mr. Amit Ramani, MRICS, Founder and CEO, Office, Mr. Jagvinder Man, Corporate Real Estate Leader, North for Microsoft India, Mr. Rahul Agrawal, India Operations Director for the Boston Consulting Group, Mr. Tanmay Khare, MRICS, Infrastructure and Services Professional, Mr. Mahendra Bangalore, Director, RE and Workplace Solution for Willis Towers Watson. Uh, while we will get into some interesting discussions, let me try and set some ground rules for the attendees also. On the bottom right hand corner, you will see a question box, and any questions to be asked. By default, all of you are muted, but any questions to be asked, I will request if you can pose those questions. Those questions will be collated by our team, and they'll be posed back to the people on the panels. So with that, let me also thank Colliers for trying to bring this elite panel up and making sure that they create a very thought-provoking and engaging webinar for each one of us to try and take this into back to our businesses. So with that, Sanjay, may I pass on the baton to you, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nimish. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Sanjay Chatrath. I work with Colliers International, and I'll be moderating this session along with my colleague, Sangram Tanwar. Again, thanks for introducing the panel, Nimish. We've got a very amazing and very diverse panel here today. And once again, thank you all for taking our time and for attending this session. Rahul Agrawal, I'll just get you in. My first question to you: a lot of experts are predicting a V-shaped recovery. So, firstly, what are your views on that? And do you think there will be a lead time before the business activity really picks up post-lockdown?
Sure. Thanks, Sanjay. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. I think my views on this are that it is going to be at least, and as things evolve on a daily basis, we've been talking to multiple CXO level people across different countries and different sectors. I think latest. As of mid-April, the respondents felt that it is going to be, about 50% of the people feel that it's going to take about 7 to 12 months for the recovery, and some feel that it's going to take beyond, roughly 50% of that again feel that it's going to be 12% or 12 months or more. I think it'll probably be more of a U-shaped recovery than a V-shaped recovery in the immediate near future. it'll all depend upon also the sectors which you belong to. So for example, the industrial sector is going to be the worst hit. People like information technology, e-commerce, etc. Healthcare, of course, is going to have a faster recovery than what is there. So that's where I think we stand.
Great, awesome, interesting. Pinny, I'll come to you. You work with a large IT firm, Pinny, and tell us what are these IT and technology companies really thinking in terms of their business continuity plans, and what sort of decisions are they really taking about their existing and the future real estate that they really plan?
Thank you, Sanjay, and good morning, everyone. Well, whoever thought a virus would disrupt the world? I mean, it was in sci-fi movies that you saw, that something like this would happen. And today we are living in this unprecedented moment where the whole globe is impacted by a virus. So maybe it's too early for organizations to start really, thinking or putting something onto paper or having a, documentation or a policy for a pandemic. But really, technology rules the world today. We'll have to start looking at technology with people. These two will sort of play the key roles going forward. And how do we protect both and have a BCP in place to ensure that productivity is not lost? So for an organization like mine, we have technology, so we had to really ramp up our data center capacity to support our customers, our partners, to ensure their businesses ran, as smoothly as possible. Ramp up our own service and IT setup to support work from home. Work from home came as, as mandatory. Earlier, it used to be like a luxury if you thought you wanted to work from home. Today, it's mandatory. Right. How do we support people at home? How is our infrastructure really supporting them? Are they productive? And flip the coin, they are burning out too, because you're trying to manage too many hats. So I think there will be a white paper written shortly. There will be lots of discussions and thoughts put together, but it is a difficult time. And I think all of us need to get together to really think what is the future of the world today and how productivity cannot be impacted as we go forward.
Right. Thanks, Vinny. I think there's been a lot of mixed sort of opinions coming in, and it was in the news, large again IT firms saying that even with the 25 or 50% of the workforce working from home, they're able to get a good 100% productivity. So everybody's just sort of just relooking on how they want to just plan their real estate and their workspaces moving ahead. So good. Thanks, Pinny. Interesting thought.
Absolutely, Sanjay. Ms. Man, you brought up some interesting insights and interesting thoughts from Agrawal as well on a U-shaped recovery. A lot of pundits have written about a V-shaped recovery. But as we see the business pan out, I think this looks more likely a typical U-shaped recovery. My question specific to Nimish, and Nimish, thank you for setting context for this webinar discussion for our audience. With COVID-19, facility management will be even more important role for all organizations. Is it time for occupiers and developers to embrace technology to promote health and wellness in the workspace? While many of them are already doing it, do you think it is time to scale it up? Do you think organizations will be willing to budget additionally for wellness going forward, given that businesses are contracting? There'll be pressure on margins. Nimish.
Yeah, Sangram, to be honest with you, I think this is the first time facility management as a profession will get its due. The due which was well deserved for so many years. I think more or less we had always seen FM as people. We were absolutely callous in calling them a janitorial service, and have never seen the importance of they playing such a huge role in ensuring the employees' health and safety. And not just health and safety, we are now talking about well-being over here, and that well-being being introduced by complete holistic facility management services, whether it is technology in terms of making sure that the air conditioning systems are basically attuned back to what is supposed to be the guidelines by the HVAC designers and engineers and the global guidelines around it. But simple things like how to ensure that you have touchless surfaces, you try and create contactless approaches. I think technology is going to play a huge role. But let me begin with that. Let me basically try and help people understand that there is a requirement for them to start respecting FM as a profession first. You need to give them the due respect. We need to make sure that each one of them are considered an important spoke in the wheel for the built environment sector. That unless we do that, unless we realize and then try and focus on upscaling them, try and focus on making sure that each one of them are upskilled, that becomes a profession in demand also. I don't think we get FM being liked by many people as a profession of choice. They do enter into it because possibly they are not able to get into some mainstream operations. But worldwide, and I can talk about what RISS is trying to do. Corporate real estate and FM remains one of the highest focus sector for RISS in the world because the way it is assuming importance in everyday's life of people, whether it is operation of built environment or whether it is operation of infrastructure within that built environment also. Today, we might actually consider ourselves to be just thinking through the buildings where we reside, where we work. But I think what we need to what we need to see and apply upon is the scope of FM to running the operations of infrastructure within the country, whether it is within the city limits or between cities. Today we are looking at, so if you read the example today in the news, says so many thousands of barricades used in Delhi, which in total tantamounts to roughly about 6.5-kilometer long barricades. Now, is there a possibility of trying to create something which basically the FM can think through? And instead of having that huge physical infrastructure, can there be a technological approach to try and do that? I do believe there is a huge opportunity for FM to reinvent itself, make sure that its presence is felt, start adopting technology from contactless surfaces to areas of effective monitoring of facilities, monitoring of energy usage, monitoring of safe and healthy air within the premises and outside the premises also. I think the world has to increasingly move towards not just resilient buildings, but resilient cities and possibly the resilient country. So I do see a huge hope and a great opportunity for FM sector as a bottom line.
Sangram, I like to add one line here. It used to be a challenge, telling people to not look at FM at a lower level. And I personally I remember that telling all my FM guys, guiding them to smile and say hello to every person who comes to office. For a change, I think when people come to office, they will be smiling and saying hello to these guys. So there is a dramatic change which we'll see in coming time. And the biggest advantage which I see is the hygiene level, which we had to force people to get into a better hygiene level. Now everyone will be so much interested themselves that the next generations have learned it forever. So it's a very good start in a way for the country.
Couldn't have agreed more.
I'll just add one more small thing to it. The perception of policemen has changed completely in these crises. People who were supposed to be wielding their lathis and supposedly heartless guys are the people who are now delivering birthday cakes to senior citizens across the country. And I think that actually is talking about how things are seeing a huge change in the professions. And FM, as Sumit rightly put it, I think that smile will now be lasting on the people when they enter into an office and when they see an FM guy, they will try and see and respect him for what he does.
I couldn't have agreed more, Sumit and Nimish. I'll just add a point, and I think we really need to thank our FM staff. As you guys rightly said, they've been actually staying away from homes at sites just to ensure that people are getting this, the entire services, and the services are not getting impacted. So I think a big thank you to the FM guys. They really deserve it.
And Sanjay, on that point, we used to give expat salaries to people who used to come up from abroad. I'm so happy to see that at a lot of places people are giving hardship allowance to people who have stayed back on offices. So I'm actually relating it to that level. So just brings a smile to my face to think about these guys. And
absolutely, and it matters a lot. So it really matters a lot. The small gestures goes a long way. And again, thanks to all these guys who've been just going out of line and just doing what they're doing, in these tough times.
Absolutely. Some brilliant thoughts there. I mean, FM is going to take center stage, I think, for the next few years to come. And like Sumit mentioned, our country would have, I think, gone ahead 10 years ahead in terms of hygiene standards, maintenance of hygiene standards, which definitely needed some calling. Any thoughts on this, Rahul? You also run a significant operation. Do you think technology will affect FM going forward? And do you think organizations will budget more for health and safety, facilities management, and maybe carve out a portion of some other expense from their P&Ls?
I completely agree to that. And I think as an organization, we've been always very, very progressive as far as the safety and security of our employees is concerned. And, just a minor example, but just prior to lockdown, when things had started becoming tough, we were even providing cabs to our task force people. We didn't want them to travel, in the public transport. Now, a small thing, and of course, the underlying fact was that we wanted to ensure that the safety of everyone who's coming to our office is taken care of. But I'm saying, just from a budgetary perspective, and I think technology will become the need of the hour. So we have, I'm in the process of setting up a new office, and we are looking at all the opportunities where we can integrate technology to create a touchless office, in terms of everything is on your mobile, where with an app you could get your access into the office, you can get access to the lockers that may be there, and so on and so forth. You could do your find your seat. So lot of thought going into it. Of course, these are early days, but I think there has been a complete paradigm shift. And while something was a good to have in the past, has now become a must to have.
Absolutely. Something that was a good to have will become a must to have. I think COVID is taking us in that direction. Thank you for your inputs, Rahul. Tanmay, if you are online, I can't see the video, but let me ask you that question, Tanmay. In the current real estate environment, do you foresee occupiers signing short-term co-working contracts or renting regular offices? Now, buying office and renting regular offices will, ask for some sort of capital expenditure, while renting office might call for a smaller amount of capital expenditure. Buying will call for a larger capex. Do you think what according to you, companies will use as a strategy to tide through these tough times? Tanmay?
Yeah. First of all, namaskar to everyone. Yeah, because we have learned to be back to our basics. First of all, I thank Colliers and RICS for arranging this kind of platform, wherein we seriously need to come across and discuss as FMers, because this uncertain times have really changed the entire paradigm of the professionals that we work with. But my frank surrender would be, let us stay calm, because this will definitely pass and we will have to live with it. Because I see experts giving up a timeline of 12 months to 18 months, or some of them say we'll have to wait for 2 years to get it cleared. Some say it will be a part and parcel of our life. But to my opinion, we will have to live with it because we have been seeing the drastic change that has been going around. Yeah, as far as the CRE world is concerned, with all these concepts of social distancing, densifying the workstations or the workspaces that we have, I definitely see pressure on the rentals that we have. Parallelly, we also have a big responsibility as far as the other side of we being the occupiers. Even some sort of consideration is definitely bound to happen for the suppliers too. The government has been handling situations in a very critical mode. Hopefully, we also have an economical, positivity, because I'm an optimistic person to be precise. And hopefully, we also have the government giving us the economical inclination in terms of the growth that we have. So, as I clearly mentioned, rentals are under pressure. Obviously, there is no demand, but people are exploring opportunities. There is disruption in technology. There is a higher level of scope for innovations. A couple of issues aligned to CRE is or would be, we would definitely find new techniques, new designs coming in. As we have shortage of labor, we might in future need to go back to the designing phase wherein we had, because of the social distancing parameters that we have. I would also like to mention that a ray of hope here comes with the concept of flexi spaces or the co-working spaces, because we focus, or we have been focusing on healthy individuals. Now it's time we focus on healthy buildings also. Yeah, so if your premises is healthy, ultimately your employee will be healthy. And as I keep mentioning in all my sessions, that we need to focus on our basics. The integration of spaces that we have, the fresh air that we are missing in all our premises. How do we get the fresh air inside? How is the indoor and outdoor integration which is possible? And likewise, we also will have to sit down and act as FMOs, which will now be in the strategic role. So gone are those days wherein FM would be a cost center. Now it will also be a a respected strategic center, because we promote plan A, we promote plan B. But I personally feel with the BCPs coming into picture, we will also need to have a plan C with us, with a clear communication. Technology is here to stay, no doubt, but the human connect, the very basic values of sympathy, empathy, getting the right people, getting the right appreciation, because times have taught us, the nature has taught us that our basics are never to be forgotten. Yeah, so I see some ray of hope in these times, wherein concepts like co-working, all healthy co-workings, flexis would be coming up. But in my personal opinion, let us wait and watch for another 6 months or so for things to settle down.
Thanks, Tanmay. Interesting thought. I'll just pick that up. And Sumit, we just briefly spoke about wellness, and Tanmay just spoke about it as well. I think in the current scenario, the employee wellness is more important than ever. So just want to understand what are large occupiers really doing at their workplace. And I'll just open this for maybe rest of the panel as well. If anybody wants to just add on to what exactly is happening at the workplace, and as employees are working from home, and when you see them returning back to the workspace, what are the large occupiers really thinking about it?
So Sanjay, employee wellness is a no-brainer. While we're talking today about it, I think there is not change over here. This has been a focus point for most organizations in the past too.
Sure.
My personal view is that organizations will focus significantly on social distancing norms and wearing masks and better control on cleanliness and hygiene. And this will be the new normal. This is the change we are seeing. But as a importance, employee wellness was something looked at by every company very closely. They were, people used to do yoga sessions and various other sessions which were carried out by multiple external internal parties just to keep the morale as well as the wellness of the employees over there. Importance to this will be also equal. What I think will be what we used to see towards physical security and data security. We used to focus a lot over there. Wellness will also become a key deliverable for all organizations. I feel it will be easier job to implement today for a facility manager to push on hygiene, as now everyone will feel equally responsible and will participate. So it's like now become part and parcel of everyday delivery.
Sanjay, I would also like to add something out here.
Sure.
Sumit said, the organizations do focus a lot on employee hygiene, but also I think it's equally responsible for the employees to reflect the same, right? That just because they're at office, they do it, but also at the home when they go, they need to also practice the same hygiene policies, protocols. Also, are they using social distancing when they're going out? So we are taking the trouble to ensure that we provide them focused transport, social distancing, sanitizers, ways to work at the office. But that doesn't stop at the office. That has to continue to the house only. If we do all these things, they go home and then they go out with their friends and socialize and come, then we have a challenge out there. So I think that is also one of the key messages we need to pass on to the employees. It does not just come to the office, but it has to be a way of life till this COVID virus we find a solution, or the new norms come into place is my listening to the group.
So Sanjay, at in our case at office, our focus and the tagline is meet us halfway there, right? Because we can only solve half of the problem. The other half you're sitting somewhere else. So our post-COVID is meet us halfway there, and that's kind of what we are doing to ensure that our members can keep safe. Obviously, the experts have already said all the norms that are being followed, which everybody will do. But I think the responsibility is as much with the members as it's with the provider of the space.
Thank you, Amit.
I'll just add. Sorry, Sanjay. I'll just add one thing.
Topic. Yeah, please go ahead, Tanmay.
Yeah, see, at this stage, we need to have a very basic, rule. That is, we need to have a clear communication, because none of the employees nor the employer is in a position to say or answer the question, when do we start a full-time operation? Yeah. So, in my personal view, a clear communication with a decisive action, not forgetting the emotional intelligence, because people have been staying home, they have gained that comfort. No doubt the productivity has improved, but tomorrow suddenly if you ask your employees to come back to your offices, we as FMers will have to make sure that the office is 100% prepared to battle out the COVID panic, which is more mental than physical.
Sure. Thank you, Tanmay. Penny, you were saying something.
Yes, Sanjay. So just to add to everyone's thoughts, is also mental health. I think that's going to be a key focus for wellness going forward. And how do we keep all the employees and people motivated, because after going through this tough time and not really understanding what's the future, because no one can see the future so far. So I think, sessions on kind of how to cope with it, how to cope with stress, how to cope with multiple, tasks that you do, and then on top of it, to be productive. I think those kind of things are going to be really coming up, and psychologists, as I say, are going to be, again, key, people to support such sessions and help us keep everybody, running the way they want to.
Interesting.
Sanjay, this is Rahul, and if I may just break it down into 4 themes, essentially, and then the panelists have talked about communication, the employee needs, travel is one additional thing that I would like to add, and remote working. I think just if I talk about the employee needs, I think some of the other things that will have to be looked at is, how do we modify our travel policies? And we also look at some of the other aspects like, sick leave, etc. and again, work from home. As earlier part of the conversation also, somebody mentioned that, working from home earlier, Penny mentioned that, earlier used to be a luxury, but I think now it is going to become something that will become more acceptable. So
Sure.
it is every aspect, not only the physical infrastructure, incorporation of technology, but it also some of the other aspect that will have to be looked at, and probably it will have a long lasting impact as to how you want to look at your employees and all the benefits as a package and not just the physical infrastructure.
Great. So personal hygiene, we're talking about obviously social distancing. And I'll open this to the panel, but do you think this is really a reckoning point for the office sector, and we really have to sort of reimagine workspaces when we plan it going ahead?
I can go first.
Sure.
I think there'll be some early takers. If I just take a cynical look, after 9/11 happened, a lot of people started saying that I'm not ever going to sit in an airplane.
Right.
And after a couple of years, the
Interesting, yeah.
aviation industry boomed, right? So from that perspective, obviously this is something which is overwhelming, and everybody's mind, from organization to each individual. You look at a print media, electronic media, anything, you just hear about this as to how it is affecting the entire world.
Right.
But I guess, once they start things opening up, unless there is a relapse which happens again in a major way, as it flattens it out, I think life will start inching towards normal. I would not say it will become normal. It has obviously taught us many lessons, which are going to remain over there, but things will start inching towards normal, and then I'm not sure how long will it continue in terms of, whether you will actually then. There would be some which will continue. If I can talk about my own organization, yes, we will probably look at social distancing and how we operate on a more permanent basis. But again, when I look at the entire spectrum, may not hold true forever, because it has
So
to be a
Sanjay,
balance between economics and what you want to, your business needs, your economics, and employee health and safety.
Thanks, Rahul.
Yeah, to add to that also, I would say, like, would we go and redesign the office immediately after the lockdown eases? I don't think that would be the answer, because this is going to be a 12, 18 months. You don't want to take any decisions. I think it will change over a period of time. But yes, will I do social? Will I adopt to social protocols in the office? Will I reduce my density? Yes, definitely, I will reduce the density. I will also provide whatever protocols possible in the office to maintain a clean environment right from the time you pick up from the home to drop. I would also concentrate on the other aspect is also the work from home. We'll also be using a combination of work from home. I think we should be using a combination of work from home and social distancing at the office to provide the productivity required. The other area which we need to concentrate on work from home is whenever I see people working from home, I see a lot of time the ergonomic furniture is not being used. We see people working on, dining chairs, they're working on sofas, working on beds. I think that is one area we as corporate and FM professions should concentrate on, is to ensure that the staff which is working from home have the proper furniture to work and sustain, so that they don't get into productivity or health issues over a period of time. I think Vinny also mentioned the earlier about the mental health issues. I think these are some of the challenges which we'll face going ahead, besides the already present possibilities of already present regulatory challenges we have for working from home.
To add to
Sanjay,
So,
Mahendra said, please, Vinny, go ahead.
yeah,
Just to add,
sorry,
in
please.
India, the concept of home office was limited. It was only with very hierarchical kind of status. I think the home office culture is going to really pick up, and we would really, look at how organizations can support or sponsor some of the, requirements from health and safety and wellness piece. So just as an example, we are even now supporting our people who are working work from home, don't have the right chair. We have shipped chairs home for them to make sure
amazing.
that, yeah, so that they don't feel, uncomfortable. And I think that's going to become the new norm. Each one of us will have to set up a home office, and also rotational teams. If as we've all discussed, it's not going to be easy for any organization to take million square feet and do the social distancing program right away. So I think as these things evolve, will teams become rotational? Will we look at home office as a permanent way forward? So that maybe 2 days you work from home and 2 days I work from the office. I think all these things will evolve with time, and it'll be different for different industries. It'll depend, because if there's technology supporting you and you can work from anywhere, well, it really doesn't matter. But if there are businesses, you have to be in your space to work, I think so the impact will be different. And of course, industry is completely different as we see it. So I think maybe another 3 to 4 months, we'll have more clarity on how this pans out and how every organization looks at it.
So Sanjay, I think at least our perspective on this is that none of the large occupiers were prepared with any kind of BCP plans, right? Everybody said just go work from home. And I think going forward, what's going to happen is there's going to be a three-pronged strategy, which is going to be built on a core of flexibility, right? Because everybody has understood that if you don't have flexibility, then you can't have agility and response to a crisis like this, right? So clearly, work from home would be a key part of the strategy. But not more than 10% is our sense when the dust settles, because the reality is that about almost 70% of the Indian workforce makes less than 30,000 rupees a month, right? Even in the white collar space. So to imagine that they have homes which can accommodate work from home, it's a space issue by itself, right? I'm not going to buy you an apartment. I can get you a chair and a desk, but I can't buy you an apartment to work from home. So the second part would be work near home, right? Today, the challenge the people are facing, I can't cross Gurgaon to go into Delhi, but I can go to a center near Gurgaon and get effective, right? So I think work near home will be the second part of it. And the third is people who really need to be in the office. And there are certain functions which cannot be done remotely, right? Because of cybersecurity, internet speeds, etc. They will have to come to the office. And I think the aspect of mental health and isolation, right? Even in the US, which has 110 million people who are in the white collar workforce, only about 5 million people today work from home, which is fully equipped for anybody to work from home. In fact, there's spaces which are created in homes, which are called home offices in the US, right? So our perspective is that it will be a transition, but no more than 10% would be work from home when the dust settles.
Got it. Perfect. So I think we're saying the same thing. So is it a right statement to say that moving ahead and depending upon the sectors, it'll be a mandatory for employees, certain percentage of employees to work from home, because obviously you won't be able to get 100% of your employees back. So it might become a sort of a norm moving ahead, depending on which sector, what percentage, etc.
Yes, Sanjay, I think if vaccine comes in, I think till then, I think it is going to become the new norm. There will be fewer percentage, like we are going with, we are saying business as usual with only 50%. You reach that over 10, 20, 30, and then you get to 50. I think till the vaccine comes in and vaccine is tested and tried, and as all of us know, the timelines are getting shortened with the vaccine. I think that time will then tell, how this is really going to work. Initially, are people going to be comfortable to come back to work? There is going to be a question mark. How many people really are going to feel comfortable to be back to work? And are they still going to have that panic in their mind that it's better I be home because I'm not interacting with anybody, from a physical space perspective? So I think we'll probably see a lot of different things coming up in the next 3 to 4 months or 6 months and then business will take decisions on how they really want to look at space.
Great. Thanks, Vinny. Amit, my next question is to you, and there's a lot of discussion around the co-working sector and has been one of the large contributors towards the absorption of office space in the last couple of years. Post the current stress, I'm just trying to understand, does the co-working sector stand to gain or lose?
So Sanjay, I'll start with a very simple example. This month, right, April, at office, we had higher sales than Maruti, Hyundai, and Tata Motors put together. We sold 100 seats in this environment, right?
Good for you.
Optimist in this, in this whole industry. Clearly, companies have realized that they will have to adopt a flex strategy, right? And co-working, why was it successful, right? It was successful because we offered flexibility. We offered a capital into an operating conversion, right? And third was the network, right? So with at least we can claim with 70 locations and 35,000 seats, we have a center in a 15-minute driving radius across 10 cities. I don't think any occupier on the panel can say that, right? So clearly, from our perspective, we see a V-shaped recovery. As occupiers come back, they will realize that they can't have a 1 million square foot campus as a solution, as the only solution, right?
Yeah.
So there will be conventional office, there will be a remote flexibility, co-working, shared workspace option, and there will be a work from home kind of an option that they will have to develop. Now, clearly, the role in the remote working and the work from home, the occupier will have to play a more partnership role, because we can't just say that I'm only responsible for my campus and I'm no longer concerned about, let's say, 30–40% of the workforce that's working remotely or working from home. So the mindset will change dramatically from looking at my office to a distributed workforce and enabling that as we go forward. And we feel that, as co-working, we will certainly play a large role in the recovery as it comes back.
Right. So, are you sort of reworking on your existing workspace to maintain social distancing, or what are your plans moving ahead, or it's the same density?
Yeah. So clearly, Sanjay, there's a new normal, right? I mean, there is an aspect of structural change, which is around de-densification, social distancing, realignment of lobbies, collab areas, meeting spaces, pantry, what you allow in a pantry, what you allow in a cafe, all those things. We have a 50-page document that goes through, that extensive network. There is elements around services, so clearly around lifts, around air conditioning, etc. How do you ensure, a much better environment, fresh air, filtration systems, etc. We are adopting technology. So the idea is that you should not have to touch a single surface to enter or exit the space, right? And obviously, that's something that we had been working on, and we are able to, provide that, starting as of 4th of May. Obviously, we are partnered with our landlords as well as our clients to understand what are they doing at a building level, what will our partners, our member companies do, right? So we are offering them shift work, we are offering them, kind of alternate work days, etc. Clearly, hygiene and safety protocols goes without saying, temperature controls, masks, providing all the elements. In fact, we are going down to the level where everybody will get a single sheet of paper, 2 foot by 2 foot, that they will use every day and be disposed of at the end of the day, right? Because the surface I can clean every 30 minutes when you're not using it. But if you're using it, I can't come to you every 30 minutes and have you get up, right? So we are using those kinds of innovations, and then very strong push on work from home. So office at home is going to be a big push for us. And there the focus for us is primarily on first understanding who's able to work from home. And when somebody says 100% of the people are being productive working from home, I can tell you with our member companies, I'm having discussions on a daily basis. Yeah. That's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. So, it's far from it, in fact. So about 60 to 70% productivity is what we are facing. So clearly work from home will require a lot more engagement to make it successful.
My 2 bits on this is that, yes, for a short term or a medium term, there will be a shortage. You will be, asking people to work from home more regularly. But on a longish term of it, I think companies will become more agreeable and amenable to people working from home. It won't be a mandate like you were saying earlier. I don't think it can ever be a mandate, but certainly companies will be much more amicable on that. And Amit, on your point, companies like you are investing on social distancing, etc., may gain a fair share of the business in the coming future. But I have a question for you on that front. The moment you do this social distancing, doesn't your cost per seat change? Wouldn't that hurt us?
So, Sumit, the answer is quite simple, right? I mean, if you have taken on a certain element, right, in terms of space, let's say you are taken with the landlord, you've taken, let's say, 10,000 square feet, you're not going to go back to him and say, now I'm going to pay half of it because only half the people are going to show up, right? The same logic applies, right? Now, having said that, I think we have gone 2 steps ahead. One, I will give you, with social distancing, I will give you the required number of seats. It might not be at the same center, right? So I will ensure that I locate the total number of people that you need. So the logic that less number of people are coming in, that doesn't apply because the same number of people are coming in, they're just distributed. Second, there's a strong push on enabling your work from home. I mean, on 4th, what we are launching is a complete toolkit that any occupier can use to be fully enabled to work from home, right? I mean, we have partnered with furniture companies, with internet service providers, with our own technology, etc. So I will ensure that you're fully established to work from home or from a remote location or from a conventional office, which is unlike any developer that can go out there and claim that I will get every single one of your people productive.
Amit, this is Nimish here. I have one more very important insight over here. There are examples which are coming up wherein people are saying that is there a possibility of mimicking the workspace which I have in my office to my home, and is that a space wherein co-working can actually create a niche market also? Now I understand it's a completely retail market, a B2C market, but is there an opportunity of trying to mimic what you have in the co-working space or your own work desk, which is being mimicked over there in your home?
So I think from that perspective, Nimish, there is clearly, I think there are 3 or 4 elements that go into it, right? First, I think nobody's talking right now about the organizational readiness of work from home. Second is the manager readiness. Will I allow you to work from home? And third is the employee readiness. Have I even asked that in a 2-bedroom apartment where 5 people stay, do I even have the space to work from home? So the first aspect is on assessment, right? Assessing the employee readiness is extremely important. And we have developed that toolkit that allows do that. Second is the physical infra. So ergonomics, the desk, elements, the technology, the bandwidth and the speed. And then, our friends from Microsoft are there, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc. What are the tools that make you, enable you to be effective? And the final aspect and is the productivity aspect, right? So we have partnered with companies that can track your productivity. Obviously, it's up to the employer to figure out if they will use these tools or not. And the third aspect is a technology element that should allow you to be productive from any location. So today, the package that we have essentially gives you 5 hours of meeting room credits at the nearest center, gives you printing capability, gives you ability to receive a package, gives you a virtual address, and also gives you a full day of working from the nearest center, right? So if I can't work from home for any reason, so that's the comprehensive level that you will have to approach this, right? Clearly, in the long term, I think co-working will see a V-shaped recovery because no occupier is willing to invest extremely on the capital when they're trying to save their businesses. Every one of us are struggling, right, through that. So clearly, a operating environment will be the norm, and the flexibility will go a long way in helping that recovery.
Interesting thoughts there, Amit, and really admire your positivity. While some of our panelists feel that we'll have a U-shaped recovery, you feel the co-working will have a V-shaped recovery, and we hope so. I think one interesting point you made was about enabling employees from working from home, and I think there could be a valid business case there for business leaders. Each employee, calls for a cost per seat when you go give them a desk in your office space. Now, if you're going to implement the social distancing norms, I think with a percentage of your staff coming to office and a percentage consistently staying home and working, I think those sort of costs could be given as incentives to employees to create a good environment at workplace, at their residences, to create a good workplace. So I think you do have a very valid point there, Amit. So interesting thoughts there. I want to go to Mahindra. I mean, Mahindra, you have commented about how things could change in the future, how densities in office spaces will increase. I remember when the back office or the outsourcing started in India, per seat space given to each employee was as high as 150 square feet a person. Today it's as low as 50 to 60 square feet per square feet a person. So things have changed, and I think we will possibly go back in time. My specific question to you, Mahindra, is that I know your organizations and many others do run shifts in office buildings, right? Do you think if, say, for example, a company is running 2 shifts, they will end up now doing 3 shifts to optimize that real estate, because you will not be able to bring in the same number of employees into the workspace. And for companies which are running, say, a single shift, maybe where they will take up 2 shifts in the same office building to optimize that space, and a portion of the population of a specific workspace will consistently work from home. Mahindra.
Yeah, I think it will be based on the organization, Sangram, and also the density of the current density they have. So how does the current density matter? So if you're looking at an organization which has 50, 60 square feet per person, they'll probably have to work 1 in 3. They will be able to use only 1 desk in 3. But an organization which has probably 85 square feet or 90 square feet per person could work at an alternate, 50% or a 40% kind of situation. So like you rightly said, I think it will be a combination of shift working. It will be a combination of split operations. It will be a combination of remote working. So by split operations, the definition is you'll work remotely some part of the time, and you'll be working in office some part of the time. So if you have a big office, it is possible for us to chalk out the various shifts and work only 2 shifts or 3 shifts depending on the organization, but ensure that there is no that every shift is occupied, different seat is occupied. So what happens, it helps decontamination, it helps the persons to keep on cleaning up. But that, I think, will be something once the office is open, we'll have to design, and that will be based on each of the particular offices we have. Currently, since technology is there, now people have suddenly got used to working on Skype. So I don't think there's any physical need to actually meet. You could have stand-up meetings at proper distances. The meeting rooms could be converted to workspaces now, temporarily, till we decide on a long-term strategy. I think these are the kind of things, temporary solutions will happen to manage. One is to manage the people coming in, manage the density, manage the cleanliness also, or the sanitization or the protocols which we require for COVID. I'm sure it will be a combination of all these things, and it will be different for each organization based on their densification and their policies and the shifts they have.
Thank you, Mahindra. Valid inputs there, I think. And I'm pretty sure many of my panelists, esteemed panelists here, would agree with the possible strategies that your organizations or organizations of your stages would be implementing going forward when the lockdown opens. Nimish, before I come back to you, I want to quickly summarize some important thoughts which our panelists made. While I'm at Mahindra, I want to make that point that he made a very valid point of, while organizations are doing a lot to make the workspace COVID friendly or COVID not friendly, employees also need to reciprocate. They need to follow the social distancing norms, and they need to reciprocate. Amit mentioned about the V-shaped recovery of the co-working business. Winnie mentioned about a U-shaped recovery, and also spoke about the psychological aspect of this whole challenge that we are going through. Tanmay spoke about rentals would definitely be in pressure because businesses are under stress right now. capex could become a challenge, and there could be opportunities for folks like Amit Ramani here, who are giving that flexibility to organizations to tide through these times. Sumit also spoke about the key aspects of facility management professionals gaining more prominence in the workspace, given the current environment. While they always deserve that, he clearly mentioned that they will definitely deserve more prominence, and there will be new norms which will get implemented going forward. My specific question now, Nimish, to you is, how do you think RICS is enabling professionals, to tide through these times as an organization? Nimish?
Right, Sangram. Thanks a lot. That's a great question. RICS, the moment this crisis hit us, we basically went into a care and conserve mode. First, caring for our own employees, our partners, our clients, making sure that we were understanding their needs. Uh, Being one of the oldest bodies and one of the largest professional bodies in the world, we wanted to make sure that we were with the profession at this point and in these times. Uh, while our remit remains a social impact, a public interest, we wanted to make sure that whatever we do, Sangram, there was an element of uplifting the profession, which was always there. If you would see, most of our members are right now benefiting from significant amount of CPD courses, continuous professional development courses, which used to be charged earlier. They are now being run free so that they can benefit from it from the times they have. And I think that's something which has been our primary agenda, to make sure that the upskilling remains at the heart of what we do. While these CPD courses are still making their current felt in the industry, and many of our members are making most of it to try and make sure. So I'm not sure if you possibly know this, but over the world, roughly 100,000 people are right now benefiting from CPD courses, which we are doing right now. At the same time, making sure that whatever thought leadership which we are collecting from rest of the world, whether it is about how the business has been resurrected in China or what has been done in Singapore, Hong Kong is pretty much unaffected by what is happening over there. We are trying to make sure that those case studies are being given in various countries so that they can use those case studies through an online event, through a webinar, through a World Environment Forum, which we run as a signature event, online summits wherein people can benefit from it. As RICS, we are going to hold one very soon now, which would possibly be next week or early next week after that, to try and make sure that people can learn from what has happened in these countries in terms of resurrecting the business. I'm sure that will actually go a long way in trying to give
Absolutely.
those ideas and making sure that people can adopt those practices. While there are efforts which are going on already in terms of creating building control and assurance standards, which has been missing in the world, by the way, Sangram. There is no building control and assurance standard in the world. We are writing to do that. I think a good spin in that case would be to try and include the well-being of the employees who work over there. So that would become one of the important criteria to ensure that a building is rated according to what building control assurance standards are adopted in those buildings. So at the heart of it, making sure that the education and upskilling remains at the core of it. We have seen a a hugely increased activity amongst people to invest in themselves. And this is what we are saying. You have time, don't waste on anything else. Try and invest in yourself. Be prepared for the future. Gain, and rise again. That's what we are trying to do. In terms of standards, we are now ensuring that some of the standards, whether these are valuation, whether this is ethical standards, whether these are property measurement or building control standards, all of that will basically now account for some of these black swan events from pandemics also. So I'm sure there will be some of those things, alterations which will be happening. So as an organization, we have been completely agile in understanding the needs of the profession and responding to it, Sangram, and will remain at the forefront of it to make sure that the profession benefits from what we're trying to do. In fact, our agenda as of today also, Sangram, was to make sure that people do understand what is the impact of this crisis and what is that we can try and do to make sure that we create an opportunity out of this crisis.
I think a good example of technology adoption and learning, the webinar we are doing, more than 200 to 50 people learning right now from each other's expertise. And now Nimish is promising that we'll get some more data from other parts of the world. So very heartening.
Yeah, absolutely. Valid point, Sumit. These events we generally do in some 5-star hotels and invite people to attend.
The best part, Sangram, when we do that, there are only 100, 150 odd people who are listening to it from a particular city, a particular location. Here we are seeing that the information sharing is happening across borders, which is just fabulous. The pace at which everything is happening is really nice.
So maybe we will
also the
limit our
logistical pressure is very less. Logistical and financial pressure also is very less, right?
Yeah.
I saw that coming, Mahendra.
Yeah, we might limit our physical networking, physical events to possibly more of networking, less of Gyan.
Yeah.
But these are also important because we need to get to feel people in flesh and in person. And I'm sure sooner people would want to go back. So, I mean, just to give you an example, our Chinese business is coming back on track. They are looking at holding their first event, physical event in July itself. We are also hoping that if we are not having the second wave, as RICS, we might be able to have a very large event again on corporate real estate in July itself. Hopefully so.
Please don't fly out to China.
Yeah.
So Nimish, it's almost 12 noon now. Would you like to open the discussion for questions? I think we've received quite.
I think let's open it for questions. I'm sure the team would have possibly sent some of those questions to Sanjay and yourself, Sangram, if they have come to you.
Yeah. Okay, Sanjay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them, Nimish and Sangram. So I'll just maybe read a couple of them. This is directed to Rahul and to Pini. Depending on the industry, do you see a permanent shift of part employee strength to work from home bases in India? This is already initiated in many Western nations as they're more equipped in terms of the IT infrastructure.
I think it will be largely also dependent, especially coming from a consultancy background. It will also largely depend upon how our clients would like to start operating going forward. And it will all depend upon the kind of engagement that is there with the client. So I think it will be largely driven by that. Yes, of course, on the business support services, ability of people to operate from home will grow more and more. And that's where I think we are headed.
Do you want to add anything, or do you want me to go to the next question, please?
Yeah, you could go to the next, Sanjay. Thank you.
This is an interesting one. We've got, when do we expect the rental markets to pick up? Sangram, I can take this. You want to go ahead? What's happening in Mumbai, Sangram?
So, Sanjay, this is a function of demand and supply, Sanjay. There are certain micro markets in Mumbai which will feel the pressure of rentals, and there are certain micro markets where vacancy levels are pretty low. Will sustain for a while. I've been speaking to industry leaders, and they are of the opinion that the impact on commercial real estate will start showing in 2 to 3 quarters. Large organizations from where our esteemed panelists are here on this call, they would possibly resonate. Most companies will not take immediate calls. They'll start taking calls in 2 to 3 quarters. And that's when we'll start seeing movements from certain large offices to some other locations to benefit from cost savings. So that's when I think the market will will start showing some stress on rentals. Immediately, I don't see major reflection on rentals, at least from Mumbai perspective. There are certain markets where vacancy levels are high. There, I think we will see certain pressures. Sumit?
A simple answer for, is you tell me when the virus is getting cured, I'll tell you when the rentals are going to go.
Rentals are coming back. The moment we have the vaccine, I think, Sumit, the rentals are coming back.
They're not coming back before that.
Yeah. No, but
Sanjay,
just to
I
add to
believe
what,
there is a twist to the market also. I mean, while we are talking about corporate real estate space, I do see
right,
an extension of what we are seeing in corporate real estate developers to try
right,
and basically target the rental housing market. We have given that recommendation to the Ministry of Housing and Prime Minister's office also, that the state
interesting.
governments, along with urban local body, should try and create a rental housing model for migrant labor, migrant population, and that could be
Right,
a phenomenal business model, which has to be initiated by the state government. Unfortunately, the real estate developers will not be able to do it themselves because
right,
it actually talks about a land bank which needs to be in the center of the businesses. And then there is an overall economy of education, health, and well-being, which is to be created in that portfolio so that these people who are an important backbone of Indian economy should come back into the mainstream. While we are looking at starting the business, there are articles which are now floating in the market which says, right, I can start the business, but I don't have my people, I don't have my employees to work for me. I don't have
right.
my migrant population which used to work for me. So I think there is a natural extension of CRE space, CRE players into the developers into the rental housing space for this population also. So maybe I think we are looking at a completely different ecosystem over here, wherein you see a merging of, as Amit was saying, walk to work kind of a concept, 15 minutes. Is there a situation wherein you are looking at catering to every strata of the society to make sure that this happens?
That's interesting thought. We've got another one for Amit Ramani. I think you've already answered that, Amit, though, but I'll just read it out for you. How will co-working players rise to the COVID challenge and adhere to the social distancing norms?
Yeah, so I think I kind of spoke about it, right? There are basically, at an infrastructure level, at a technology level, at at a very core level, we're starting from the building to the workspace to the services, etc. So I think I addressed that, but I think the main thing, and which is I feel very strongly about, that it's as much of the individual's responsibility as it's of the provider's responsibility, right? And I think that has to be very, very clear, because independently we can't do it. So meet us halfway there and we will take care of it.
Okay, Sanjay, I have a few questions.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, these questions. So I think this person's name is Akshat. Akshat has a very specific question, and he says, and he has addressed that question to Mahindra. Mahindra, if you're around. So I'm pretty sure Sumit, Rahul can also pitch in. I know Amit is doing this all the while. So the question specifically is, how will building owners who are cash strapped be able to make changes in their buildings? Will organizations now spend themselves to keep the newer standards, or bring up the newer standards? I know, Amit, you take buildings which are low on infrastructure and invest and then create a great space. But Mahindra, Sumit, Rahul, how would your response be? I know first and foremost you won't take an asset which is which is demanding, but just in case, do you think you will pitch in and help the landlords?
It depends actually, because if specifically, I think this question will be targeted to those companies who are multi-tenanted, right? And they will need to make some changes in the infrastructure currently. And we do understand sometimes it is the landlords may not be interested. I think we'll need to step in, provided the other tenants are also ready for it, because the safety of the associate is key for us. Also, the landlords need to understand, if they don't do it, then I think they're going to lose a lot of business, right? It's becoming a norm now. At least for this thing going ahead, it's going to be a norm, like having a thermal scanners, ensuring that the lifts are less populated, and all those kind of things will happen. We as tenants probably could help them by by staggering our shifts to ensure that all of people do not come at the same time. We could stagger it by half an hour. So I think it's a question of give and take, and working with the landlord closely to see how we could help out. But like somebody said, all of us have to come halfway. It just cannot be one way. And I think landlords need to invest in the infrastructure. And if there's any challenges, I think we can always talk about it and work it out.
I think well said, Mahendra. I have a point to add over here. In terms of vertical transportation equations which are made for doing a building, I don't think people look at those, or the designers look at those. You see a complete
Absolutely.
congregation of people waiting for 5 minutes, and the waiting period are humongous. And then you see people moving in. I mean, they completely outdo the capacity of the lift almost every moment of traffic, whether it is the in time or the out time. The lifts are under designed, they are not properly designed. The vertical transportation solutions needs to be relooked at.
And Nimish, on that, I heard from one of the gentlemen who was talking about China that some of them are saying that there is a wait time of close to an hour to their office because of the limitation of vertical transportation. So, I mean, how true it is, I'm not sure, but that's what I heard one of the gentlemen speak. And on your question, you know, it's for any developer to spend anything, he's going to take it back from the occupier.
Yeah.
He's going to spend on a thermal scanner, he's going to charge it back. If he's going to spend on a, you know, any other cost, everything is going to be parked back. So it is going to get distributed if it is a multi-tenanted, if it is a single one, and if I'm demanding, I will have to pay for it. I don't see anybody is going to spend from the back pocket in today's times.
I agree.
And it goes the same way as what Amit said, I go halfway, you go halfway. So if I'm willing to extend my lease for a longer period of time, give me some carrot, and I will also, you know, do something for you. So it's a give and take scenario.
Also, I think the lower floors can start using the staircases. It would help. I think these are the kind of simple things which,
yeah,
if we can work it out,
you'll get back to those days wherein there is a privilege PLC charges for the lower floors now.
Yeah.
Possibly, you never know. So, okay, another very specific question. I don't know who the person is, but the question specifically is that with now it becoming mandatory to work from home, at least some percentage of your staff, how would this impact the commercial real estate segment? I think this question is answered in many ways by others. There is another specific question. This is for Tanmay and for others to answer as well. Do you think that organizations will move their non-core functions to remote locations of cities to tide through the times, these times of business loss and reduced business?
In the current state or scenario, I would say there are possibilities, but as I clearly mentioned earlier, all organizations are on a wait and watch kind of policy. You know, you just wait, watch, you relook what kind of sector you have been through, what are the easements that have been given for that sector, and likewise, definitely there will be some kind of consideration or some kind of movement done for the staff which are not mandatory for their presence at core locations. Definitely.
Sangram, I'll just add to that what Tanmay said, and we've been talking to a lot of clients, and still there are a lot of moving pieces that, as Tanmay said. But one other thing is extremely clear that irrespective of the sector, I think everybody's got impacted because of the current situation, and businesses are looking at saving cost. So they will be revolving, the strategies and solutions will be revolving. They will see on how best they can save on cost. Either it's downsizing or either it's relocating to more economic or economical or cost effective locations. This will definitely, we'll definitely see these trends coming up in next few months, once the lockdown's over, because any client today you talk to, the point is that yes, the business is impacted, and yes, how can we strategize and make sure that we save costs. So this will be a trend moving ahead for sure.
So moving to tier 2, what is the driver for that? Cost. So any industry which is impacted big time by cost will look at it maybe. But having said that, if they have to, then they have to invest once again. Do they have the ability to do that? Is another question which comes up. A lot of industries
we have Amit for that. Sorry, sorry,
views on that. I'm sure he will have a different view than I have. But if the industry has a talent as their focus, then maybe not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Nimish is pointing out we are almost through time. Nimish, you want to take it up? There are a few questions we will, and for the audience in general, we will respond to your queries specifically one-on-one. We really appreciate the queries that you're raising. Nimish, you want to take it up, please?
Thanks a lot, Sangram. Thanks a lot, Sanjay, for holding the panel into a very innovative and encouraging and engaging discussion. Making sure that we questioned them on. I think there were some pointed questions at them, and I'm very happy with the panelists trying to open up and completely transparently sharing their approach on what things happen. As we speak today, we are still yet to see the bottom of this crisis. While you guys are talking about V-shape and U-shape curve, there are theories of W curve which are supposedly now floating in the market if the second wave happens. But we just hope with the lockdown 3.0, with eased conditions, with 30% population in the office possibly being allowed in most zones, I do believe we'll start heading back towards normalcy. As I am talking about it, I think one positive things which we are good to see is the amount of positive cases percentage as the number of tests which are being done is lower in India. The fatality rate is very well controlled. I think as a nation we have done significantly well in terms of keeping the given the population we had significantly in control. And I do believe our business minds which we have over here, the corporate leaders we have over here, I'm sure they're going to bring up a lot of innovative thought process and trying to basically make the most of this as an opportunity rather than being bogged down by the crisis. So I just hope, as Tanmay said, eternal optimism. I'm sure the nation will come out triumphant. With that, I just say Jai Hind.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nimish. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.